Welcome to our next tutorial on the funnel exercise. Let's pick up where we left off previously, building the handle for the funnel. First, let's shift select all these features and right-click and delete them. Now I'd like to bring back Solid 1. Right-click, Visibility. Now let's activate the Thicken Offset tool. Output is surfaces. I'd like to offset this face. For demonstration purposes, I'll enter a value of 0.1. Click OK. Let me hide surface 4. Right-click, Visibility. Let's also bring back surface 2. And let's create a work point on the YZ plane. This edge. Let's take a right view. Now let's do a sketch on the YZ plane. Project geometry. I'll use this point. Let's create a line first. And a second line. Something like this. Right-click, Done. Basically, what I'm doing here is creating supporting geometry. The handle is going to go through these 2 points, here and here. I'm not going to dimension these lines at this point. That's because most likely I'll need to tweak them a little bit. Let's exit the sketch now. And we'll take an isometric view. Next, I'm going to place 2 work points and a plane at the end of my new lines. I'm going to make them normal to these lines. The second plane will be here, normal to this line. Let's create a sketch on the first work plane we just created. Face view, select this plane. Click on Project Geometry. And let's project this point, the line tool, right-click, Done. Let's apply dimensions now. 3/4 of an inch, 0.75, OK. Now let's apply a coincident relation between this point here and this point. The sketch is fully constrained. Let's exit the sketch. Now we'll create a second sketch on this plane. One thing I want to mention here. We did create a sketch. However, let's say I try to activate the line tool. At the center of our coordinate system, we've got nothing to snap to. Let's click Escape. The question is, what happened to the projection of the center point? First, let's figure out where the center point is. I'm going to mouse over it in the browser. I see that it's right here. It got projected on this sketch and ended up right here. Now let me activate the line tool again. If I mouse over the center point, I do get the green snap dot. But of course, we don't have the green snap dot here. Let's hit Escape on the keyboard. Now activate Project Geometry. Let's select this point and activate the line tool. I'm going to create a line about here. Right-click and Done. Let's dimension the line now. I'll make it 1/2 inch long, 0.5, and click OK. A coincident relation between this point and this point. The sketch is fully constrained. Let's exit the sketch. And let's take an isometric view. Now let's create a 3D spline. I'm going to hide my 2 new work planes. Right-click, Visibility. Here also, right-click, Visibility. Let's activate a 3D sketch. Geometry to include. I'll select this edge, this point, and this edge. Let's activate the Spline tool now and we're going to snap to this point. That's going to be our second point right here. Point number 3. And last point right here. Right-click, create. Right-click, done. Now let's apply a tangent relation. It'll be between the spline and this line, and then again between the spline and this line. Now let's exit the sketch. Let's use the loft tool now. We'll see how this works. Output type, let's use surfaces. And we'll select this edge and this line, and lastly, this edge. Let's specify a rail now. We'll use our spline. It seems to be working okay. Now we need to specify our tangencies on the Conditions tab. The weight value, let's enter 0.25 for both, and click OK. Now let's hide solid 1. This will give us a better view of our handle. You may notice here that I've got a gap between the bottom of the handle and the funnel. You might be wondering why I created that gap. Down here, see? Okay, let's stitch these surfaces together. Apply, and done. And let's use the Thicken tool now. The Quilt option, we'll select. Distance, let's enter a value of 0.1. Now it's easy to see in the preview why we needed that offset. Let's cancel out of the Thicken dialog window for now. I want to make some more modifications to my sketch. Let's double-click on Sketch 6. We're able to adjust the position of the point to see how that works. Let's exit the sketch. Since we created this surface for our handle using the Boundary Patch tool, it's actually very likely that we're going to have some trouble when converting it to a solid. Let's try it out. Activate the Thicken tool. We'll use the Quilt option and select the handle. Click OK. Now let's scroll up in the browser and make Solid 1 visible. Right-click, Visibility. And let's stitch these 3 surfaces together. Boundary Patch, Loft Surfaces 1 and 2. 3 selected, Apply, and done. Let's activate the Thicken tool again. Quilt option, select our surface, and for the distance, let's enter a value of 0.01. Click OK. We get an error message, modeling failure resulting from face-to-face intersection. Let's cancel out of the error message. Let's scroll down the model browser, Shift-select Stitch Surface 1 and 2 as well as Thicken 1, and let's just delete them. Press Delete on your keyboard. Let's uncheck Consume Sketches and Features and click OK. Instead of the boundary patch here, I'm going to use a surface offset. Let's also select and delete this loft, as well as this 3D sketch. However, actually this 3D sketch will work for me since this line and this edge of the boundary patch and the surface offset occupy virtually the same space. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to delete it anyway. Let's select 3D Sketch 1 in the model browser and press Delete. I'm going to hide Boundary Patch 2 as well. Let's right-click on this node and unselect Visibility. Now I'm going to drag the end of part marker above Surface Extrusion 1. Okay, we're ready to roll. Let's activate the Extrude command. Select the profile. Under Extents, I'll select 2. Let's select our terminating surface in the graphic area. And we're ready to click OK. Now let's activate the Thicken Offset tool. We'll use Surfaces. Select the surface. Let's make the offset distance 0 and click OK. Let's scroll up the model browser. I want to hide our solid. Expand solid bodies, right-click on Solid 2 and unselect visibility. Let's drag down the end of part marker to bring back all of these features that are now grayed out. Now it's time to recreate the 3D sketch that I deleted previously. Activate the Include Geometry tool, and let's select the geometry to include these two edges, these 2 points. Activate the Spline command now. Our first point, and second point, third point, and the last point here. Right-click Create, and right-click Done. Let's apply tangent constraints here, and here, here and here, and we're ready to exit the sketch. Click Finish Sketch. Let's activate the Loft command now. The output will be surfaces. Let's select this edge, and this line here, here as well. And now let's specify a rail. It'll be our spline. And we're ready to click OK. Now I'm going to stitch the surfaces together. Select the surfaces to stitch and click Apply. And done. Activate the Thicken Offset tool. Make our selection. For the distance, 0.1. And let's click OK. Now let's apply the Stitch tool again to stitch together Boundary Patch 1, Loft 1, and Loft 2. Apply and done. Let's apply the Thicken Offset tool command again. The distance will be 0.01. We'll use the quilt option and let's click OK. By the way, in a situation like this, if you try to offset in different directions, you may have a problem. Let's click Edit. We'll try both sides to see if it works. Click OK, and it does work. Let's take a home view now. Okay, in this area, we obviously have a small problem. The solid that we use to create the offset surface has become part of the funnel. Let's take a moment to see how we can fix this. I'm going to use the Thicken Offset command. My output will be surfaces. Select the surface. If you're not sure of the offset direction, you can just increase the distance and the preview will indicate which way to go. As you can see, it is going in the right direction. So let's correct the distance and click OK. Let's activate the Split command now. We'll use the Trim Solid option. Let's select the surface we just created. Be sure the arrow is pointed in the right direction. Let's apply to execute the split and cancel to close the tool. Lastly, let's hide our surfaces. Shift-select, right-click, unselect visibility. And here is our funnel. And this concludes our third tutorial about creating a funnel.